Hello and welcome. Today we're going to tackle a question that, believe it or not, trips up a lot of nonprofits. Do you actually need to register to fundraise in the state of Missouri? Let's break down exactly how it works, because it's probably not what you think. This is all part of our multi-state fundraising compliance series, where we take these complicated state rules and turn them into clear, practical advice. This explainer comes to you from the specialists over at Ironwood Registrations. So, let's say your organization is ready to start soliciting donations in Missouri. You're probably thinking, okay, time to find the registration form and get this done. But hold on, this is exactly where Missouri is different. While the state absolutely regulates fundraising, it turns out most nonprofits will qualify for an exemption from registering altogether. Now here's the catch, and it's a big one. That exemption is not automatic. You have to ask for it. Okay, so let's dig into this surprising rule. First things first, who's the one making and enforcing these rules? The regulating body here is the Missouri Attorney General's office. To be specific, it's their Charities program, which is part of the Consumer Protection Division. They're the ones who manage all charitable fundraising in the state and keep the official records on who's registered and, just as importantly, who is officially exempt. And that brings us to the most important thing you need to understand about fundraising in Missouri. For almost everyone, the right path isn't about registration, it's about formally requesting an exemption. So you can really think of it as a fork in the road. On one side, you have the exemption path. This is the route most 501c3 organizations are going to take. On the other side, you have the full registration path, and you only need to go down that road if you don't qualify for an exemption. So who exactly gets to take that easier path? Well, the list is pretty broad. It covers most nonprofits with 501c3, C7, or C8 status from the IRS. It also includes religious organizations, schools and universities, certain hospitals, and even membership groups, as long as they're only asking for money from their own members. And here's the best part. Claiming your exemption is incredibly simple. All you have to do is send a written request to the Attorney General's office. You'll need to include a copy of your IRS determination letter, the one that proves your tax-exempt status, along with a few other basic formation documents. Once they approve it, you're good to go. Okay, but what if you look at that list and your organization doesn't fit? Well, this is when you have to take that less common route, full registration. And what kind of fundraising triggers this? The definition of solicitation is really broad. We're talking about that Donate Now button on your website, email blasts, social media campaigns, direct mail, phone calls, and of course, any in-person fundraising events. If Missouri residents can see it and donate, it counts. If you do have to register, the process involves mailing in an application. You'll need your articles of incorporation and a list of your officers and directors. And here's a really key detail. You must designate a registered agent who is physically located in Missouri. That's who will accept legal documents for you in the state. The one-time fee for this initial registration, it's just $15. So financially, it's a very low bar to clear. Now, whether you get an exemption or you register, that's just step one. Let's talk about what you need to do each year to stay in good standing. And here's another one of Missouri's little quirks. The state doesn't require an annual renewal of your registration. But, and this is a big but, if you are a registered charity, you do have to file an annual financial report. And that deadline is no joke. The report is due 75 days after your fiscal year ends. And you really need to mark this on your calendar because Missouri does not grant extensions on this. And just like the initial registration, the filing fee for this annual report is also $15. Now, there are a few scenarios where you might be exempt from this annual report, even if you're registered. For example, if your organization gets less than $10,000 a year in contributions, or if you're primarily funded by an entity like the United Way, you might not have to file it. A question we get all the time is, well, what if my nonprofit isn't even based in Missouri? Let's get really clear on how these rules apply if you're an out-of-state organization. The answer couldn't be simpler. Your location doesn't matter. If you are asking for donations from people who live in Missouri, it doesn't matter if it's online, through the mail, or over the phone, you are subject to these laws. You have to either get that official exemption or go through the full registration, period. So let's zoom out for a second. How does this unique exemption-first approach in Missouri fit into the bigger picture of fundraising compliance across the U.S.? This really gets to the heart of it. Missouri's way of doing things is an outlier. In most other states that regulate fundraising, the default is that pretty much everyone has to register. You simply cannot assume that what works in one state will work in another. Every single state is its own puzzle. And that really brings up a critical question for anyone leading a growing nonprofit. As you expand your fundraising reach, are you certain your compliance map is complete? Or could there be a surprise, like Missouri's, waiting for you in another state? Getting your status properly documented in Missouri, whether by exemption or registration, is a non-negotiable compliance step. If you need a hand managing all these different state requirements, the team at Ironwood Registrations specializes in just that. You can find out more at ironwoodregistrations.com.